Welcome, viewers. I think today's lesson would be much more useful for you if you had printed the notes. So if you haven't already done that, if you have, if you can print them, great. Obviously if you can't, you can follow along on your computer. Normally I print the notes for all the students, but it is what it is. So find the midpoint with your partner. So midpoint, think about what that word could possibly mean. If we were in class, we'd have a discussion about it. But we're not. Midpoint, a point in the middle. And we usually use a capital letter M. So that is right here in purple. Okay, so we've got these two ordered pairs. So let's look at our graph here. A is at over 2 up 3. This is X and this is Y, right? Horizontal distance is X and vertical is Y. So X is always first, Y is second. So if I was going to write that ordered pair, that would A would be at 2, 3. And we're not going to worry about M yet. Let's go to B. B is at, if you count, it's at 6, 7. Well, obviously we can tell by where we have these numbers graphed, we can tell where the midpoint is, right? If I go down 2 and over 2, and I go over 2 and up 2, I can tell the midpoint is at 4, 5. You see how 4 is right in the middle of 2 and 6? There's 2, 4, 6. And 5, the y value, is right in the middle of the a y value, 3, and the b y value, 7. So that is the midpoint of that segment. That's to find the midpoint, there's actually a formula, and it's really just the average. All you have to do is take the average of two numbers to find the x and the average of two numbers to find the y. All right. So if I'm going to make a big ordered pair, all right, x is first, y is second. My midpoint, the formula, is I average, the way we average is we add. We add the x's up, the x's that we know are 2 and 6, and we divide by how many we have, which is 2. And now to average the y's, we take the y's that we have. We want to find what's in the middle, so we average them. And that's how you do it. So 2 plus 6 is 8 divided by 2 is 4. And 3 plus 7 is 10 divided by 2 is 5. Boom! We already had that. Okay, that's the midpoint formula. That's it. If you can average, you can do this. And again, if I'm ever going too fast, please pause the video. So now let's see if we can find, start with one where, just like the one we did, we're given the two endpoints. I already plotted them. If you could go ahead and do that, pause and plot the 2 points. When you plot the points, put the letter next to it, and they're capital letters. So go ahead and do that, and then start me back up again. We're asked to find the coordinates of M, which is in the middle. So we are going to average the x's, and we're going to average the y's. That's it. So I'm going to make a big, I like to make this big so I can put all my numbers in there. So what are the x coordinates? The x coordinate of P is -2. The x coordinate of R is 4. So I'm going to average 2 and 4. Not 2 and -2 and 5. Notice we're averaging -2 and 4, the x coordinates. And now we'll average the y coordinates, 5 and 3. 5 and 3. Now we could count, we'll just verify that once we're done, but let's do it algebraically first and see what we get. So if I do -2 plus 4, I get -2 divided by 2. And then this is 5 plus 3 is 8 divided by 2. That's going to be -1, 4. And that's the midpoint. We usually put a big M next to it, and let's plot it and see if it's actually in the middle. Wait, sorry, did I not do that right? Oh my gosh. If we were in class, someone would have corrected me. Ms. Helbing, -2 plus 4 is +2. Oops, my bad. All right. So I fixed that. There we go. Okay. So now we're at 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. There it is. And if I had graphed negative 1, 4, I would have been like, wait a second. Jump back. That ain't right. So there we go. There's your midpoint. Now, sometimes they give you one endpoint and the midpoint and ask you to find the other endpoint. I'm going to show you the easiest way to do that, and that's with a graph. So whether you have graph paper or whether you don't, you can always get out a piece of graph paper and do this. Even on the SOL, they'll give you graph paper. So I've gone ahead, go to the next, if you've got it printed, go to the next graph. Otherwise, if you've got graph paper, just take out a piece of graph paper. And I plotted, now I'm on example 3B. I plotted A and M, and I put an M next to it because I want to make sure I remember that is the midpoint. It is not an endpoint. Now we're asked to find the coordinates of the other endpoint, which is C. So if this is the middle, then C has to be down here somewhere, right? Not up here. So now that we know that, M is right in the middle, I'm going to count. I got to graph some from this endpoint to the midpoint is down 2 over 2. So I'm going to do the same thing, down 2 over 2. Boom, there's C. Now, we are asked for the coordinates of C. So that is what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2. And we are moving on to the distance formula. Now, the distance formula is similar because we are given 2 points yet again, but we're not asked to find the point in the middle. We're asked to find the length of the segment. So your answer will be a number like 5 or 7, not a point like the problems we were just doing. So if you remember, Pythagorean theorem takes a right triangle, squares the 2 legs, adds those areas together, and gives you the area of the hypotenuse, which is the longest side, the side across from the right angle, squared. The distance formula is exactly the same thing. We're going to make it a triangle, okay? So if I were to make this a triangle, and I'll show you those distances, how those distances come in just a second. So let's go ahead and use the distance formula. And a lot of people like to use Sleeping SpongeBob. Sleeping SpongeBob looks like this. So there's his head, and here are his eyes, here's his nose, and he's sleeping. So these are squared, and those are the Z's. And sleeping helps you remember that those are minuses. So the formula is x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. And Sleeping SpongeBob can help you remember that where the minuses and the pluses go. If you don't like this formula, you don't ever have to use it. Some people like it, some people use it. Most of the time I notice people make errors when they say, I want to use the distance formula. It's much easier to graph and use Pythagorean theorem that we've already learned how to do. But I'm going to show you again, I think, in the next example. So here's x1, here's y1, here's x2, here's y2. So let's go ahead and plug those numbers in. Negative 4 minus 3 squared plus 3 minus 2 squared. Now this is negative 4 minus 3 is negative 7, and that is a quantity that's squared. When you square a negative number, a negative times a negative is a positive. So I ran out of room. Wait, no I didn't. There we go. Okay, so that is 49, not negative 49, but positive 49 plus 1. So that's a square root of 50, which is approximately, if you throw that into a calculator, 7.07. I'd like you to pause and try examples 5 and 6, and I'm going to show them to you now. All right, so here's another distance formula problem. x1, y1, x2, y2. Throw them in the problem. I'm going to show you how to use Desmos. Okay, so if you come over to the tab and you type in Desmos Virginia Graphing Calculator, and you want to type in Virginia, how do I do that with my computer like this? Enter. There we go. It's the first one that comes up. And you want to make sure that this banner is green and it says Virginia there. So then you just type in, you guys used this last year, so you probably are comfortable with it. Square root of 145. Okay, so, and it's approximately, because we're going to have to round that. We're not going to write out all those decimals. So I go back to my screen here, and that's approximately, what was it? Shoot, if you guys were here, you would tell me. But you're not. D is approximately 12.04. Okay, so let's go to the next example. The next example is another midpoint problem. So you have to think back to the first thing I taught you, averaging the x's, averaging the y's. And you should have gotten -2, 1. If you didn't, we can talk about this in class, or you can look at this example, press pause, and look at my work and see where you made the error. All right, last problem we're going to do using the distance formula and using Pythagorean theorem. About to show you here. So if you've got 2 points, yes, you could use the distance formula. Okay, we've done that in class. We just finished. However, you could also make it into a triangle and count the lengths of the sides. Notice this length is 3, this length is 5, and if I put that in Pythagorean theorem, because it's a right triangle, so I can use Pythagorean theorem to find the length of the missing side, which is also the distance that we're looking for. Hopefully we'll find the same answer. So I plug in 3 and 5, I square the numbers, I get c squared is 34. That means that I take the square root of both sides, and I get c is the square root of 34. And I don't even care what that value is, because notice it is the same. So you can choose anytime you're asked to find the distance between 2 points or the length of a segment. That means the exact same thing. You can use the distance formula, and you don't need graph paper, or you can break out a piece of graph paper, plot the 2 points, draw yourself a triangle, and do Pythagorean theorem. It's your choice. Thanks. Peace out.